My name is Jennifer Kreutzer, and I want to share some information on how our natural resources can impact the development of parcels. Whether you are a buyer's agent or a seller's agent or both, an ecological assessment allows you to leverage information. No one likes surprises. Finding a tortoise burrow or knowing the lot is in scrub jay territory is not a deal breaker when everyone knows what that impact is. On the seller's side, not only is everything properly disclosed, but you can assure the buyers that the price has been properly adjusted based on the assessment. A parcel with no protected species or wetlands will obviously command a higher price than those with, and you can justify that price with that assessment. Further, the sale can be completed faster since less time is required for an ecological feasibility study. On the buyer's side, knowing what they are dealing with increases their confidence in your listing compared to other listings that don't have any information about the ecological assessment. There are 133 federal and state threatened or endangered animals, and probably close to the same number of plants. Obviously, I will not cover them all. In our area, what we are most likely to run into is gopher tortoises, scrub jays, and wetlands. Most residential parcels will qualify for the basic 10 or few burrows permit. Costs for excavation and relocation can be as low as $2,400 or exceed $40,000, so knowing ahead of time is very important. FWC regulations require a building permit application to be submitted to the city or county and a site plan that clearly shows the tortoise burrows cannot be properly avoided. This means that tortoise burrows and tortoises cannot be relocated for a clearing or mulching permit. It also means they cannot be relocated as a condition of or prior to sale of a parcel. If the burrows are in the yard of a completed home, the burrows and tortoises are protected and in most circumstances cannot be relocated. Relocating tortoises and paying scrub jay development fees should be considered just another cost of doing business. Costs should be considered when pricing the lot or when making an offer, especially if they are not disclosed. Your attitude seriously impacts the buyer's attitude towards our wildlife. Development is going to happen. Property rights are definitely a thing, but we don't have to kill everything that already lives here. It's only polite to not pour concrete on their heads. We just need to move them out of the way first. The Florida scrub jay is federally protected. The development or mitigation fees cover destroying the habitat of a federally protected species. That sounds expensive, and it is. Charlotte County has entered into an agreement with the U.S. Fisheries and Wildlife called the Habitat Conservation Plan. This identified appropriate habitat and allows the county to handle the permitting at the local level, making it much faster and much cheaper than going through the federal USFWS directly. The development fees are reasonable for single-family homes at $4,000 for a standard 10,000 square foot lot. They go up to $23,270 for a 1 to 3 acre lot. And for big parcels from 5 to 20 acres, those fees jump up to $139,440. Parcels over 3 acres may also be required to preserve and maintain up to 50% of the existing scrub jay habitat. For any other county that does not have a habitat conservation plan, they fall under the federal USFWS umbrella plan. There's a contact with USFWS who determines if a review package or full survey is required based on their database of information. The review package costs about $500 for the evaluation and submission. The full survey, including that review package, runs about $2,500. After the information is submitted to U.S. Fisheries and Wildlife, they either send a letter to the county or city that releases that parcel, or they collect mitigation fees due. This is based on both parcel size and the specific metapopulation of jays where that parcel is located. For comparison, in Northport, these fees would amount to $17,800 for the same 10,000 square foot lot. So as much as the Charlotte County plan gets bad press, it is preferable and faster to dealing with the federal government directly. Burrowing owls have been shown to not stray far from their burrow territory. In fact, observations have proven that they stay within half a block of where their burrow is. Ideally, burrowing owl burrows would be avoided during construction, but that's a 10-foot setback outside of the nesting season and a 33-foot setback during nesting season. Nesting season runs from February 15th through July 15th. If construction is started by the end of July and outdoor work is done before nesting season begins, it is possible to avoid any impact of nesting season. If the burrows cannot be avoided, they must be collapsed when there aren't any eggs or young present. I usually try to get the neighbors to install or agree to install a starter burrow immediately while we're waiting on the U.S. Fisheries and Wildlife permitting. That gives those owls someplace safe to be within that half a block of where their burrow is that we're going to collapse. Starter burrows are then placed after construction is completed and must be maintained for at least 3 years. We are lucky enough to have many regional bald eagles. While they are no longer on the federal endangered species list, they are still protected in Florida, and they are still protected by the Federal Migratory Bird Act. In Cape Coral, these restrictions are increased to 1,100 feet around the nests. Under no circumstances can a nest tree be cut down or destroyed, even if the nest blew down in a storm. If construction must continue into nesting season, an approved management plan and monitoring will be required. This isn't ideal, as monitoring costs about $500 per day and is required for at least 3 days of the week during nesting season. The good news is that eagles urbanize very well, and very little actually bothers them and scares them off of their eggs and babies. For wetlands, we do have a national wetlands inventory, but it is conducted and compiled from aerial imagery taken at 33,000 feet, along with some federal soil survey data. So some areas that are identified as wetlands no longer meet the qualifications. Ditching, canals, and construction over the last 50 years has drastically altered hydrology in some areas, creating wetlands where there shouldn't be any, and eliminating wetlands where they were historically. The wetland boundary is used by engineers to create the site plan, which then has the wetland and the setback lines marked appropriately. So you must avoid any impact to wetlands by at least 25 feet. That's all fill, clearing, and construction. Any impact to the top 4 to 6 inches of soil counts as wetland impact. Complicating things on smaller lots, wells and septic must be 75 feet from all surface waters in wetlands and 75 feet from each other. So knowing where that wetland line is and where your setbacks are is critical to creating that site plan. Both of these parcels are wetlands. The one on the left appears obvious. It's got standing water. The one on the right is not obvious unless you know what you're looking for. The black stuff in front is an algal mat crust. The grass in the foreground is needle rush, with some reddish sea purslane on the opposite side of the little sand path towards the rear of the picture. The short bushes in the center of the lot are actually white mangroves. The taller trees along the canal itself are white, black, and red mangroves. The home you see and the Australian pine are actually on the other side of the canal. Additionally, all the way up to the road, which I'm standing on in this picture, in both the open and the forested areas, are fiddler crab burrows. So it contains pretty much all of the primary and secondary characteristics of wetlands. Most counties have different guidelines and fees for protected trees. Lee County protects about 75 native trees with the preference to avoid impact, the rest requiring a permit to remove. In Charlotte County, Sarasota County, and in Northport, the size and dimensions of the trees varies, but they all carry excess fees on your tree permit that can be offset by keeping either heritage or other trees. Mangroves do have an allowance for homeowners to trim themselves without a permit. However, there are a lot of restrictions. Only a certain amount of the water frontage of mangroves may be trimmed. They have to remain at least 6 feet tall from the substrate, regardless what the tide is doing. They're measured from the top of the sand or mud. And they can't be taller than 10 feet. Anything taller than 10 feet requires a certified mangrove arborist to do the trimming. And under no circumstances, mangrove trim or otherwise, may they be trimmed shorter than 6 feet or more than 25% of the foliated portion of the tree. Dock or seawall installation may allow some removal from the footprint, but expect some permitting to be required for a typical seawall installation. Just as a guideline, expect to pay about $9 per square foot in mangrove permitting fees. I would treat the limited ecological assessment the same way you do a home inspection. It may not be required, but it is a very, very good idea. Turnaround time is about 10 days, but I can usually get the site visit done sooner and notify you of any red or yellow flags that could impact the offer well within your diligence period. Other parcels will require a full report for the county to do their permitting. This means that if a parcel is too large, too far away, or they can't cover 85% of the parcel in 15 minutes or less, they will require a report from an independent consultant. So the report that I prepare for the buyer could also be used in permitting. It does expire within a year, but they are usually easy to update and don't require another full assessment. The best way to request an assessment is through email. Send me the parcel address or parcel identification number, the diligence period that you have, and the name, phone, and email of the contact person where both the report and the invoice should be sent to. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.